Hi everyone, my name's Dan, I'm a recovered drug addict. I introduced myself as recovered today because I've recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body, which, equates to, the absolute inability to leave drugs alone, no matter the grade and the necessity or the wish. And for me, the necessity and the wish for me was I was going to die. All the consequences that built up for me, I was still not able to leave it alone. And not just drugs, alcohol as well, whatever the substance it was. If it was in front of me, I'd use it. Today, I don't put strategies in place to prevent myself from relapsing. As a result of going through the steps, having a vital spiritual experience as a result of the steps. Today I'm free. That's God's granted me that freedom to be able to go and help others. I don't wake up in the morning fearing a relapse. I don't wake up in the morning saying to myself, please don't use today, which weren't my story, I'll come back to that. So, I started drinking and taking drugs because I enjoyed it. That was, simply because I enjoyed the effects it had on me. From quite an early age, really. I was probably about 12, 13. I started smoking weed. Started drinking at about 14, 15 after school, the ciders, vodkas, but I was able to put it down again. I might wake up in the morning with a headache and I'd been sick all over myself and whatever else, but I was able to put it down again, and predict when I was going to pick it up again. And that went on for quite a while, growing up. I didn't have a bad childhood. I was taught right from wrong, loving family, and I had talks about in the book. The warnings, ominous warnings. My family always said don't take drugs. I've had family members die of heroin overdoses. And it was driven into me from an early age, don't take drugs. So, I was taught right from wrong. Did I listen to them? No, I thought I knew better. I started getting a little bit older. Drinking became a big part in my life, but on a weekend, the party lifestyle, going out raving. It was when I actually met my wife-to-be when I was out on the town. No, I didn't know then it was going to be my wife, but yeah, she is today. And she actually said to me when we first got together when I was 18, if you carry on taking cocaine, I'm leaving you. I said, all right. Chose not to. I was able to hide it. I was able to still choose when I took drugs for a couple of years, I'd say. I can't really draw the line on when it became fun and enjoyable and I can choose to do it or not to do it, to having no choice whatsoever. My life progressed. I got a good job as an apprentice electrician. And that was my lifestyle. I'd work through the week, looking forward to the weekend. I'd plan to go out, and everything else, and I'd actually line up the drugs, cocaine, MDMA, whatever it was, and I'd have a good weekend. I'd hide it from my missus, even though she tended to find out, but the consequences then weren't great. They were. Might have had a Barney with her, might have had to try and hide what I was up to that weekend and whatever else, but really I could get on with my week again at work, and again, that went on for a couple of years. And then I started to use midweek, and you know, my using then was pretty heavy, cocaine, mainly without drinking. You know, the using at home started to become using at work, trying to hide it, trying to hide the state I was in from the night before. And at this point, I'd been promoted at work, so I was quite successful in work. And it talks about Fred's story in chapter 3, more about alcoholism. Let me just flick to it, because you know, I relate to a lot of what it says in the book. You know, the guys in, you know, how it describes Fred is a partner in a well-known accounting firm. His income is good. He has a fine home. He's happily married and a father of promising children of college age. He has so attractive a personality that he makes friends with everyone. If ever there was a successful businessman, it is Fred. To all appearance, he is a stable, well-balanced individual, yet he is alcoholic. We first saw Fred about a year ago in a hospital where he had gone to recover from a bad case of jitters. It was his first experience of this kind, and he was much ashamed of it. Far from admitting he was an alcoholic, he told himself he came to the hospital to rest his nerves. The doctor intimated strongly that he might be worse than he realised. For a few days he was depressed about his condition. So yeah, I relate to Fred. You know, I was able to manage my life around every other aspect, really. You know, I was able to do things when I say I was going to do it. You know, I was able to hold down a job, a relationship, and every other thing. You know, apart from preventing myself from using. And I couldn't quite understand then that was happening to me. You know, I was thinking, why am I so selfish? Why am I choosing to do this time and time again? At that point, I did not enjoy taking drugs. You know, as soon as I put one in me, I would regret it instantly. You know, and then another spree. So that went on for a long time. Work started to get suspicious of what was going on. And in the end, I ended up having a seizure after a couple of months spree. And, you know, I was hospitalised, and I came out and I said to myself, I cannot do this again. You know, I really meant it. You know, with all my heart, I was going to do everything to prevent myself from doing it again. A couple of days later, I was signed off work for 4 weeks, and I was flat out at home on my own, you know, in complete psychosis, thinking, how did this happen again? And that was you know, an endless cycle. Time and time again, I'd say to myself, I can't do this. You know, I'm fucked. And I'll find myself using again. You know, I was using at work. I was in the office one day, and you know, at this point, I was consistently using every day, going home, going to bed at night, going, I can't do it tomorrow. Find myself doing it again. And I'd sniffed a line of cocaine in a toilet, and my boss actually followed me in because he knew what I was up to, and he heard me. They pulled me into a meeting room and basically just asked me, are you doing drugs at work? You know, we've got reasons to believe this is happening. And I denied it, outright denied it. So they said to me, right, well, we'll take you down to a clinic tomorrow and you can have a drug test, you know, and then we'll get the answer. So I said to myself, right, this is it then. You know, if I stop using now, I might be all right. And then I found myself 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning sniffing cocaine before the drug test. And, you know, I just could not understand what was going on. Yeah, the obvious happened. A week later, they got the results back and it was positive, and I lost my job. So again, it was like, right, this time, you know, my wife now knows what's been going on. It's all out in the open. She'll be able to help me. And it lasted probably 2 weeks. You know, I held on for 2 weeks and relapse. Bosh, I'm back to where I was again. On my own, hiding, telling lies, stealing. You know, I'm in thousands of pounds worth of debt. I've got drug dealers knocking on my door. I'm bringing, danger to my home, to my missus, and every time I'm going, this is going to be different. I'm going to be able to stop myself this time. All this stuff is mounting up now. And every time back to where I was before, relapse after relapse, and I was completely baffled. I'd be in tears. It wasn't even the fact that I'd had a bad day. My life rebuilds itself quite quickly. I can get on with my life if I'm not using. So then, I could be on the way home to my missus. She's making me dinner, and then I'll twist. I'll go, just half a gram. That'll be all right today. And then I'm gone for hours and hours and hours, and she's ringing my phone. And I won't go into what I do on my sprees. I don't think it's relevant. Everyone has their own experiences. But I ended up in a rehab last year because we could not see any way out of what was going on, and it was paid for by my family. And I spent 30 days there. Again, I started feeling all right. I hadn't used for 30 days, which is quite a long time for me. I started looking all right. My family was happy to see me. I'm back in my marital home. And the next day I picked up an 8 for cocaine out of the blue. Just like, how? Why did I do that? I had no reason whatsoever to do it. Back to where I was, if not worse. They're full of shame, remorse, humiliation. The family's all disappointed. I know I had no reason. I could not justify why I went and did that. No matter how much I tried, plain insanity. But while I was in rehab, I was introduced to Cocaine Anonymous, and at this point I'm going to a meeting a day. I'm getting to as many meetings as I can, which was suggested to me. And I'd find myself sitting in a meeting, sharing how good my life was, and then I'd leave and I'd go and pick up, fucking baffled. What is going on? I can't even trick myself into, I can see other people getting well around me, and I'm getting worse. And it went on for a while, and I don't know if anyone else has experienced a relapse after being in the fellowship and knowing a bit about the book and recovery. I'm sitting there going, fucking hell, well, what if I did this and do that and someone told me to do this? Why not working? I was under the illusion of power, that by doing what's suggested, I was going to stay clean. I'm still trying to assert my willpower to prevent myself from using. I bumped in. I met a guy, in the meetings, who's now my sponsor, and he disturbed me around the subject of alcoholism. And at this point I was sponsored by someone else, and God bless him, he tried to help me. And I'm going through the steps. I'm on step 4, and it's taken me 2 weeks. And I've said to my sponsor now, he says, "How are you doing, Dan?" I said, "I'm doing really good, really good." He says, "You better be careful, you're going to relapse." And then, I was like, "How? No, because I feel good. I'm doing this stuff. I'm doing what I'm told." 2 days later, I'm back relapsing. And I picked up the phone to him. I said, "How did you know that was going to happen?" He says, "Because it happened to me." That's his experience as well. So, I asked him to sponsor me. He disturbed me, but in a way that, he prophesies as the book directs you to do. In chapter 7, helping others, working with others. We started going through the steps, and he directed me to more about alcoholism, chapter 3 in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And, he said, read through that, see what you relate to. And going through it, so much jumps out at me. If you haven't got a book or you haven't read it yet, I suggest you read this chapter. Yeah, I'm going to read a little bit more about alcoholism, and it's the Jaywalker, because this actually explains my life to the T. Our behaviour is as absurd and incomprehensible with respect to the first drink as that of an individual with a passion, say, for jaywalking. He gets a thrill out of skipping in front of fast-moving vehicles. He enjoys himself for a few years in spite of friendly warnings. Up to this point, you would label him as a foolish chap having queer ideas of fun. So at that point in my life, I was enjoying going out, drinking, taking pills, having a laugh with the lads, pulling the women, whatever else. That was my idea of fun. Luck then deserts him and he is slightly injured several times in succession. You would expect him, if he were normal, to cut it out. So a seizure happened, my health was deteriorating rapidly. I was losing weight. I was a shadow of a man that I am today. I was having constant headaches, constantly poorly. So presently he is hit again, and this time has a fractured skull. Within a week after leaving the hospital, a fast-moving trolley car breaks his arm. He tells you he has decided to stop jaywalking for good, but in a few weeks he breaks both legs. I decided to stop jaywalking. I decided to stop using drugs for good, time and time again. Firm resolution, on my knees pleading, saying, please help me, I can't do this. And I'll go and do it again. On through the years, this conduct continues, accompanied by his continual promises to be careful or to keep off the streets altogether. Finally, he can no longer work. His wife gets a divorce and he is held up to ridicule. He tries every known means to get the jaywalking idea out of his head. He shuts himself up in an asylum, hoping to mend his ways. I ended up in a rehab, hoping that, this was going to be a cure for me. I ain't going to do this anymore. But the day he comes out, he races in front of a fire engine, which breaks his back. Such a man would be crazy, wouldn't he? Yeah, so the day after I came out, picked up, the thing that's going to kill me, I'll go and do it again. Plain insanity, like I say, my life is all right, and I'm an okay guy until I relapse. What I do after that first line, drink, pipe, whatever it is that I'm putting in me, I'm all right. And when I say that, a lot of my friends use cocaine. A lot of people that I know smoke crack cocaine. It's very Moorish. Yet they don't need to be sitting in a meeting of Cocaine Anonymous, because they're able to predict when they're going to use and when they're not going to use. It's the fact that I can't predict when I'm going to use. I have no memory of what's going to happen after I use. I have no sound reasoning. I've got nothing to defend myself from picking that one up. And that's what I've learned from going through this book with someone who's armed with the facts about this stuff. It doesn't matter how I'm feeling beforehand, because I can justify sometimes, But even in that justification, it doesn't make sense in the light of what's going to happen when I go and use again. Like it says there, it was the end of a perfect day, not a cloud on the horizon, yet he goes and drinks again. Life was going on all right for this guy Jim in the book. And that was what used to confuse me the most. When my life was going good, why am I going to go and do that again? So I'm going to turn to chapter 7, working with others. This chapter here directs us how to help the still suffering. Tell him how baffled you were, how you finally learned that you were sick. Give him an account of the struggles you made to stop. Show him the mental twist which leads to the first drink of a spree. We suggest you do this as we have done in the chapter on alcoholism. So chapter 3, more about alcoholism, is where it describes what we suffer with. If he is an alcoholic, he will understand you at once. He will match your mental inconsistencies with some of his own. If you are satisfied that he is a real alcoholic or an addict, begin to dwell on a hopeless feature of the malady. Show him from your own experience how the queer mental condition surrounding that first drink prevents normal functioning of the willpower. When someone done that to me, I matched it 100% straight away. I thought, wow. Keep his attention focused mainly on your personal experience. Explain that many are doomed who never realise their predicament. You know, it's not a laughing matter, this stuff we suffer with. It's a very deadly illness. You know, people are dying out there. I know a few members or previous members of Cocaine Anonymous that aren't with us now. You know, and that's the fact, you know. But you may talk to them about the hopelessness of alcoholism because you offer a solution. You know, the solution is in this book. It's outlined clearly with clear-cut directions, you know. The solution for me was to go through the steps, have a vital spiritual experience, you know, not just a spiritual experience, a vital one that I needed to have. To be able to connect with your higher power that I choose to call God. To be able to then go in step 12, go and help others. You know, it was freely given to me. Am I going to just walk away and... You know, I wake up in the morning and I pray to have people cross my path. You know, I was talking to someone earlier. I don't wake up in the morning fearing a relapse. I don't wake up in the morning praying to keep myself clean because, quite frankly, I don't know what's keeping me clean. You know, it's a miracle that I am where I am today. And it's certainly not my doing because past experience tells me otherwise, that I can't do this myself. So stress the spiritual feature freely. If the man be agnostic or atheist, make it emphatic that he does not have to agree with your conception of God. He can choose any conception he likes, provided it makes sense to him. The main thing is that he be willing to believe in a power greater than himself and that he live by spiritual principles. You know, when I first came around, I thought I could get away with the God idea. No, I'm not a religious guy. I never have been. But I had two options in front of me, either go on to the bitter end or die, or accept spiritual help, you know, divine help. You know, what is there to lose? Yeah, you know, this is all about God, or your higher power. All of it. It's all directing us how to connect with our higher power. You know, not to prevent ourselves from using. Because it actually leaves the drinking problem at chapter 3, and then anything after that is the solution, you know, going through the steps. You know, yeah, I have had a vital spiritual experience, and remain in that experience by God's will, you know, going out, helping others, constant thought of others and putting that into action. You know, I can think about helping others all I want. If I'm not actually putting in the action and going to help others, you know, that's just, you know, it's not what this is about. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Thanks.